Our keynote speaker today needs no introduction, but somehow I've been tasked with the challenge and also the honor of doing such an introduction. But I'm going to be absolutely honest and transparent here, which I've learned is a trait President Riccobono appreciates. Before I ever even met Mark, I was terrified of him. I had heard the stories, I'm sure you've heard them too, how dangerous it was to make him angry, and just about anything could make him angry, apparently, and how awful the revenge would be. Hellfire and brimstone stuff. There seemed to be a trepidation throughout the field to even associate with NFB, and as a newcomer to this work at that time, trying to figure out all the politics, I felt like it was a good idea just to keep my distance. But as I watched his work at NFB conventions and listened to his speeches, and learn more about him and this huge organization representing the voices of blind people, I became intrigued and curious. I found that often his ideals were in opposition to the current thinking in the field, but there were good reasons for that. I saw heart, passion, and dedication to breaking the barriers that stand in the way of blind people living the lives they want. After coming to APH, I supported Dr. Metter's desire to strengthen the relationship between APH and NFB, a relationship that had admittedly become distant and fragmented. President Riccobono welcomed this opportunity for renewed partnership with a willingness to let bygones be bygones. This led to a number of collaborations around the Connect Center, Code Jumper, Mantis, Chameleon, Lego Braille Bricks, and more. And of course, there is our partnership with Monarch and the EBRF, which has been absolutely essential to ensuring that the needs and voices of blind people are at the forefront of development. Working closely with Mark and seeing him in action has taught me a lot personally about leadership and partnership. And as for those rumors, well, don't believe everything you hear, although I think Mark kind of enjoys that reputation. At least a little bit. He eats, breathes, and sleeps the mission of his organization, and he is unapologetic for that. And when he does get terrifying, and he has with me more than once, I've learned it's for good reason. Mark will tell it to you like it is. And as a sighted person, afflicted with sighted biases, who is working in this field, I absolutely need his blunt candor to keep me focused on this one unequivocal, unmovable truth. Absolutely nothing about them without them at any level. The influence of our partnership with NFB has led to many positive changes at APH. We are listening better. We are including more. And granted, we have a long way to go, and we should and we will do better. But we can trust that if we begin to lose our way, our friends at NFB will check us and patiently work with us to get us back on the straight and narrow. And that's what good friends do. So today we are honored and privileged and not terrified at all to welcome President Mark Riccobono of the National Federation of the Blind as our annual meeting keynote speaker. NFB elected Mark to serve as its president in July of 2014. He has been reelected by the membership every 2 years since that time. He has a long list of achievements and experiences that led him to this role and that define his current presidency. But more than what's on his resume, I am truly grateful for his character, his commitment, and his honesty. Please join me in giving another warm welcome to our partner and friend, Mark Riccobono.
Okay, that's a good start, but we got to do better than that. First of all, let me say what a wonderful introduction, Anne. Thank you very much for that. I wasn't sure where she was going with that at first. And to Dr. Metter, what a great opening yesterday, and what a tremendous way to open this talk about innovation with those awards. I mean, truly folks that deserve recognition. So congratulations to APH on starting off with innovation. So innovation, while it makes a great theme for this annual meeting, we have to admit that it is an overused and highly misunderstood buzzword. No pun intended to the APH hive. This morning, my goal is not to wow you with innovation or to tell you that we've been getting it all wrong. Today, I want to riff on the idea of bringing together a community of dedicated individuals who are prepared to rock the field of blindness. Each of you has the choice of being in that community and contributing to the music. And as you contemplate that choice this morning, I noticed some of you were a little reluctant to play along here at the beginning. Keep in mind that innovation rocks, and together we will rock you. The great philosopher, John Lennon, said that there's nothing you can know that isn't known. This is the first really simple opening power chord to rocking in the blindness field. What can be known about blindness can be found within blind people themselves. It's not found in the research journals, in the university classrooms, or even in the concurrent sessions here at the APH conference, not even in the Monarch session coming up next, which I do encourage you to attend. It's found in the lived experience of blind people, not just 1, 2, or even 10 blind people, but hundreds of us. We cannot talk about innovation without recognizing that it begins with blind people. It has to be centered on blind people. We have to take our lead from what blind people know. To innovate, however, we need more than an opening chord. American innovator Henry Ford said, "I am looking for a lot of people who have an infinite capacity to not know what can't be done." For our purposes, I would add, by blind people. We need a lot of people with an infinite capacity to not know what cannot be done by blind people. If that is you, you can be part of the innovation community here today. Does your internal rhythm begin with a core belief in the capacity of blind people? That rhythm is essential to innovating in ways that cultivate that capacity. It's not enough to center our work on blind people. We truly have to believe in blind people to the point where we do not know where the limits are for blind people. And when we do that, innovation can happen. And innovation rocks. Now, this was something that even I, as a blind person, had to learn over time. You can join me in that rhythm. You have to be daring enough to be led by blind people and humble enough to innovate in your own life. And you too can get to the place where you can rock a confidence in blind people. To say that someone rocks means they do their work with enthusiasm, skill, and confidence. This is a level of professional growth we should all be pursuing. In order to do that, we need a community of support around us, a community that challenges us to be better and to support our growth. So, when I say we will rock you, it is my way of expressing that our collective confidence in blind people, our shared focus on the wisdom in the lived experience of blind people, that we make a difference when we share that understanding. It is also to say that when you have the backs of blind people because you believe in us, we will have your back too. We will rock you. What about innovation? What does that really mean? At its basic level, innovation is thought to be about the creation of a new idea, method, or device. Sometimes innovation means to improve or replace something. And with all respect to Dr. Metter's definition of innovation last evening, I believe these definitions are far too limiting for this audience. True innovation is more than the outcome. It's the process. It's the pattern of thought. It's the journey. I prefer this definition. Innovation is the process of creating value by applying fresh solutions to meaningful problems. I'll give that to you again. Innovation is the process of creating value by applying fresh solutions to meaningful problems. Let me break that down for you, and let me use the monarch as our example. This is where Anne's going to get nervous. Do we have a meaningful problem? And by the way, let me pause here to say that there is a graveyard of hundreds of attempted innovations for the blind that were chasing solutions to false problems. Examples include everything from yoga mats, toothbrushes, and even a toilet designed with the blind in mind. It is not enough that something is new just because no one invented a toilet for the blind before does not make it innovative. It has to solve a real, not a perceived, meaningful problem. In order to know meaningful problems, you have to be centered on the experience and wisdom of blind people themselves. We know that a significant problem, despite the many great strides we have made, is having access to text and graphical information in real time in integrated classrooms and in ways that can be easily manipulated and edited. We know that Braille, a foundational innovation that solved a very real problem, could be even better if it was presented in more lines and with more capabilities. So we have a meaningful problem. Do we have a fresh solution? With the Monarch, I say yes. There are many aspects that allow the Monarch to meet this specific criteria. One of these is the combination of partners working on the project itself. The fresh approach of combining the unique skills and talents at the American Printing House for the Blind and Humanware and the members of the National Federation of the Blind. This also brings in our power cord of being centered on the real experience of blind people, the known wisdom of blind people. When the technical team working on the Monarch took on a new approach, they tested it against the real experience of blind people. The innovative approaches are the ones that made it through the testing, because they achieved the final element of innovation. The process of creating value. If the new ideas built into the Monarch are truly innovative, they have to demonstrate value to the end users, to blind people. And more importantly, true innovation occurs alongside a collaborative process and a determination of real value. As blind users test concepts, they articulate things they would like the technology to do. If the Monarch team believes in blind people, and I can say from my personal experience, they absolutely do, they start with the idea that the challenge is the technology, not the people involved. They have that belief because they have challenged themselves and their own ideas within the known wisdom of the blind community. This has helped them to raise their own expectations, but in turn, they have helped to raise our expectations. The process of innovation sometimes rocks a lot more than the outcomes themselves. I use this example because it resonates with my own experience with coming to understand innovation. Remember, I told you I did not always know what could not be done. Now, I was first declared legally blind at age 5. Growing up with a progressive eye condition that slowly took away more eyesight, I got a lot of implicit and explicit messages about how critical eyesight was to success. I believed those messages, and I limited my own thinking and opportunities because of those messages. It was not until I found a community of blind people who believed in me more than I believed in myself, and who shared their collective wisdom with me, that I began to understand that the meaningful problem was not blindness, but the lack of innovative approaches to eliminating the artificial barriers in society. That put me on a journey of discovery. And that journey is continuing even today. And I hope that each of you are on that journey with me. It's never too late to learn that innovation rocks. 20 years ago, I attended my last annual meeting as a trustee of the American Printing House for the Blind. I wish I knew then what I know today about the wisdom of centering blind people, the power of innovation, and the strength of working together around that shared belief. I share that because some of you may still be wondering if there really is a place for you in our innovative community of people who have an infinite capacity to not know what can't be done. I assure you that your journey is not over. We need your talents in our work. And if you let us, we will rock you. 20 years ago, I took a position coordinating educational programs for the National Federation of the Blind in Baltimore just before we opened our research and training center, the NFB Jernigan Institute. At the grand opening of that facility, we had an exhibit of how a tactile interface could one day provide a blind person with access to real-time environmental information that would allow them to respond accordingly in order to drive a car independently. At that time, I thought the exhibit was a great marketing gimmick to get engineers interested in innovation for blind people. I did not believe the outcome was possible because I was not sure blind people, mostly myself, would be capable of performing the tasks required. I had no evidence. I had not tested the concepts. What I knew came from decades of internalizing misconceptions about what blind people could not do. In 2007, I became executive director of the National Federation of the Blind Jernigan Institute and our Blind Driver Challenge, as it is known, came to be one of the project responsibilities that I had. One day, engineers from Virginia Tech University called and asked if I would come speak with them about their interest in a project to develop a blind drivable car. I made the long trip from Baltimore, Maryland to Blacksburg, Virginia, where I learned about the work happening there to build self-driving cars. They told me that they could easily put a blind person in one of these cars, have the blind person hit a button to initiate the self-driving mode, and achieve the goal of having a blind person drive a car. That was not consistent with what I knew about the lives of blind people and the level of independence and active participation that blind people desired. That was not innovation. We already faced too many situations where we were asked to simply sit and do nothing. Although I did not believe it was possible myself, I got up and told the engineers that we wanted to be able to drive. We wanted to get the information, analyze it for ourselves, and then make our own driving decisions. I told them we wanted to be able to crash the car. Innovation rocks, right? That was not truly that we wanted to be able to crash the car, but if there was nothing real for the blind person to do, if it was not possible to crash the car, then we already believed it was not possible for blind people to drive the car. The team at Virginia Tech said they needed to start with something smaller than a car to prove the concept. In collaboration with members of the Federation, we built non-visual interfaces into a little red dune buggy and took it to a large-scale program we had for blind youth at the University of Maryland. By the way, Larry Scootcon was part of that event. For a week, we taught blind youth about engineering, and at the end, they got a chance to test the first blind drivable vehicle. Now, these blind students are the ones that opened my mind to this idea. They had not been taught that it was not possible, and they were eager to understand the patterns of information conveyed by the technology. I had a fresh solution, but it meant nothing until I believed that humans were capable of utilizing that solution. It was at this time that I started telling people that when you start with the prospect that little is possible, it is impossible to get more than little accomplished. The next year, I was tasked with developing a plan to build non-visual interface technologies into a real street legal vehicle and testing the interfaces with blind people. I was project managing the effort and making sure our Virginia Tech engineers were actually engaged with blind people to test their concepts. One day I was asked if I wanted to be one of the test drivers. Well, duh. By this time, I knew there was more possible than I had originally thought, but I still was a little unsure about whether I, as a blind person, could do it. The question was not the technology. It was completely whether I believed in myself. After weeks of testing and refining technology, giving the engineers feedback about the non-visual interfaces, and spending more time driving off the road than on, the moment of truth came. We had boldly declared 7 months earlier that we would do our first public demonstration at the Daytona International Speedway at the end of January 2011. We had tested the technology for weeks, but there had always been a sighted engineer in the car. We told the engineers it was time to get out of the car. We had to determine if this was real. Did I believe in what was possible or what was not possible? Now, when you're going to drive for the first time, even in January, what do? I jumped in the driver's seat, rolled down the windows, and turned on the radio. Roxanne came out by the police. Pumped out of the speakers. I had made literally 100 or more trips in the car using that technology, but the first time I did so without a non-blind person in the car, I was overwhelmed by the power of the experience. When I did so on the Daytona International Speedway, it transformed my understanding of what is possible. I no longer knew where the limits were for blind people, and I have lived that way every day since. It took me some time to truly understand why the experience was transformative. When my perspective was changed, when I challenged myself not to simply accept the well-accepted ideas, innovation happened within me. I can tell you, innovation rocks. I find this to be the critical element in the blindness field today, between those who are rocking innovation and those who are disheartened with the field. We need to challenge ourselves every day to have confidence in centering blind people. We need to live in the world as both John Lennon and Henry Ford described it, knowing we do not know what can't be done by blind people. Now, for you non-blind people out there, don't get nervous. This takes a leap of faith because society does not teach you to have confidence in the blind. However, blind people should not think just because we are blind that we are immune from internalizing that same limiting misunderstanding. From personal experience, I can tell you it is much more fun rocking innovation. I've had the opportunity to explore what blind people would do in outer space by taking a zero-gravity ride with the Associate Administrator of NASA, building non-visual interfaces for driving, been part of engineering the first mobile application giving blind people instant access to printed information, organizing a rally of young future blind leaders at the Lincoln Memorial, creating partnerships across the field that helped raise expectations for emerging professionals, and even helping set 2 different Guinness World Records with thousands of other blind people. I could spend more time sharing my experience, but what you need to know is that every big innovative moment came about from hundreds of little personal interactions and commitments in rooms just like this. Rocking innovation is about the process, the journey, not always the outcome. It is about how much we change in the process of innovating that matters. You have a choice. You can be part of the innovation, or you can be part of the archives. I'm Mark Riccobono, a blind person, living the life I want every day. My lived experience drives my dedication to rocking innovation with you every day, because I know there is too much to be lost if we fail to keep the beat alive. In closing, let's see who's ready to rock innovation with me. You have that choice, and if you are ready to make that commitment, join with me. See, we got a lot more people on board. Even the guide dogs, like. Thank you to the American Printing House for leading innovation.